Hey, Marco.
What's up, Dan?
Nothing much, but my watch seems to be broken. Do you happen to have the current star date?
Yeah, of course. Who doesn't have the current star date? The current star date is -302,382.9141051051913.
That's a long one.
Does that help, Dan?
Just a sec. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I got
Watch
you.
is synced up. We're ready to go.
Hello, fans.
Welcome to the feature-length podcast, episode 2.
We're back.
This time around, we know people kind of know who we are. We're a podcast, and we just talk about movies and TV / whatever we want to. That's the basic premise, and we probably talk for the length of a feature movie. Yeah. That's it. Welcome. I'm
What's
Carolina.
your name?
Yeah.
Yep. I'm Marco.
And I'm Daniel.
We're the hosts, I guess. We just talk to each other.
Hosts, yeah.
Hosts of the podcast.
So first and foremost, shout out to everyone who listened to our first episode, because we were expecting to have negative viewership on that. So
Okay,
if you did listen to the first episode,
10 people max,
Sure.
not negative.
yeah, so that was really cool of you. If you listened to our first episode, we hope you continue to listen to our episodes. And, if you like it, again, show a friend, even though they won't be looking at anything because it's a podcast. But, yeah, hopefully you enjoyed. So, Carol, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, this week we're talking about Fleabag, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. To give a brief description in case someone is listening and hasn't watched, first of all, we're going to be giving spoilers, so I do recommend that you go and watch it before you listen to this, if you have any interest to. It's just 2 seasons, 6 episodes each. Each episode's like 30 minutes, so pretty bingeable. But this is from the internet, so I'm plagiarizing it. But it's a fourth wall-breaking dark comedy series about a woman in London trying to come to terms with a recent tragedy. This is where the spoilers come in. The death of her best friend and business partner. But it's generally a show about trying to navigate her life, running a business, and dealing with a really complicated family dynamic. And it's just really funny, but also really sad and heartbreaking and relatable. Yeah, so that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah. So, keeping with the theme of last week's episode a little bit, one of us has not seen Fleabag before today. So maybe let's save that person's opinion for last, since I'm assuming they'll probably have to come in and do the most talking up front. I will quickly just start off by saying... Yeah. I will start off by saying I saw Fleabag for the first time, I think about 4 months ago now, whenever quarantine started. I don't know. I've lost track of time entirely. And then I also, a few months later, watched the original one-man stage play type thing that it was
One woman.
Yeah. Stage play that it was based off of. Yeah, and, no surprise here, but I really like it. So we'll just leave that there for now. Carol, what are your general thoughts?
Yeah. So I am obsessed with the show. I watched it, I also don't know time, but a few months after the series ended, I would say maybe, because I watched a YouTube video and a guy said that season 2 of Fleabag was one of his best shows of 2019, and he was talking about just how perfect the season 2 episode 1 was, and I just was like, okay, I'm gonna watch it. I had Prime. I became obsessed. I told everyone I knew to watch it. I have now seen it 4 times. Each time has been with a different person who I forced to watch it. I watched the one-woman show. I am absolutely obsessed with it, which is why it's our second episode. But Dan has never seen it.
All right, I guess it's my turn now. So yeah, like Carol just said, I had never even heard of this actually before. We were playing around with ideas for this episode. I still haven't seen the actual play that it was based on. And I was surprised to see that it was based on a play, but I just watched it this past week for this episode, and I absolutely loved it. I should say I loved season 1, and I adored season 2 even more. Like,
yes.
I couldn't believe how much better it got in season 2 because of how good season 1 was. But yeah, it was fantastic, and we're gonna go into detail, obviously. But the first thing I wanted to say, and this like hit home with me, is excellent editing across the entire series. Like, it almost seemed experimental, but it was so good. I really just wanted to get that out there.
See, and that's something I didn't pick up on.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that at all, but that's why we have Dan the professional here.
Yeah. Good job keeping...
Stop spreading rumors, Marco.
Last time we said you were the professional of the podcast. You have to keep it going. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so that's right. At some point, Marco's got to chime in with an
J.R.R
opinion from J.R.R Tolkien.
What would J.R.R Tolkien think?
It'll happen. Trust the process.
Yeah, so that was just my little spiel here, my first impression. I don't want to speak too soon, but it might be one of the best series I've ever watched. Like, I really liked it a lot.
Hell yeah.
Seriously. And thank you guys for suggesting it to begin with.
Yeah, it's great.
My pleasure. This is now my life's journey. Like, this is all I meant to do, I think. So,
you're like an evangelicalist for Fleabag, specifically.
I'm
you know what I mean?
Go
You
to
just
other
go around
countries
and
and
show
spread the gospel of Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Carol, yeah, go off a little bit here. Obviously, you are the biggest fan out of all of us, so I'd like to get some of your thoughts up front.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to note, first of all, I felt a similar sentiment. Season 1 was so good, and then it's surprising Season 2 got better. But for those who haven't watched the stage play, it's kind of more inaccessible. You had to like pay for it, and it was only released to raise money for COVID, for people on the front lines. So that totally makes sense. But yeah, Season 1 was what was the stage play, what was taken from the stage play, because she wrote it kind of as a personal challenge. Her friend was like, hey, can you take a 10-minute story and turn it into a 70-minute one-woman show? And she's like, sure, why not? And so she did and performed it in like 2013. And so most of the events that happened in Season 1, in a different order and kind of different circumstances, were from that play. And then Season 2 wasn't really supposed to happen because she's like, it's just based on this play, what am I going to write? But she just kind of came up with a totally new idea, and it just worked so well.
Only Season 1 was...
Yeah, Season 1 was... It ended a little bit differently, but yeah. So...
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I assumed, when I read about it being based off a play, I assumed it was the whole thing. That's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know either, and I think my first time watching... I have the same sentiment as you guys. I really like Season 1. Season 1's really good. Season 2 is, like, one of the best seasons of television ever. Like, it's incredible. And so I just kind of chalked it up to, just after having done it once and, bringing everything back to it. But I think, one of the interesting things about, like, having seen the stage play and then thinking back on Season 1, the stuff in Season 1 that's, like, excellent is all kind of in the stage play, and I think you can see a little bit where it was like, okay, we need to like flesh out the story a little bit and add some stuff to make it a series, and I think that's what holds it from being as good as Season 2. But I think by the time you get to Season 2, it's like we're building something from scratch and we know what we're doing, and we're not like because the first season is basically an adaptation, right? So there's a lot more that goes into that, whereas Season 2, since you're doing it from scratch, I think it flows a little bit better. And also, I think she probably had more of a sense of like who the characters are and how far you can push the boundaries. Like Season 2 does get into some really experimental stuff, like Dan was saying, how the camera becomes like a conceptual idea for
character.
Yeah, it's like a character in and of itself. It's really cool. Yeah, but I share that sentiment with you guys as well about the quality of the seasons.
It's also sort of like, it's very respectable learning that Season 2 was an original script.
Having it as an adaptation, I guess, is limiting in a way, and like comes with its own challenges, and so impressive that they were able to pull it off. But I think being able to like starting to write Season 2 knowing it's going to be a visual thing must have been like so exciting for her. Just to write, like you have so much more room to play with. But yeah, I think we've done enough like just general talking about the show.
Sure.
So
all right, guys. Thanks for listening
Yeah.
to the episode.
The end. That's all we wanted to say.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get into some character talk.
All right. Go ahead. Name someone.
So
Favorite characters?
Yeah. Who is your favorite character? Dan, I want you to begin.
Oh, me?
Yes.
Okay. I think my favorite character, it's tough, but I think it was Claire. Main characters. Oh, actually,
Which
you know what?
Claire?
Before we go, yeah, female Claire, main character sister. But before we actually go into this, we should probably mention that a lot of the characters are not named.
Yeah.
Like, they're not explicitly named. And I wanted to ask, because I noticed, like, looking at the credits after each episode, almost all of the characters that are named are the female characters, except for, I think, two. There's Harry and there's Martin. And both of those characters are kind of, like, on the antagonistic side. So I was thinking how cool it was. This might be just my headcanon, too, but it's almost like even in the credits, they're working in... like, even the credits seem feminist, not, like... Yeah, and it was so cool. Like, I've never seen a movement like, for example, feminism in a production being worked into the credits itself. So maybe, again, that might be just something that I'm noticing, but I thought that was super cool. I don't know, like, because what do you guys think of... Do you think it's deliberate that almost all of the characters named are female and not even all of the named characters... Or, sorry, not even all of the female characters are named?
I think that it is inherently a feminist show, and when I first watched it, I was like, oh, it's so interesting that some of the characters aren't named, but I didn't really think about it farther, because I was just so, like, still wrapped up in thinking about, like, more of the emotions that the show brought out in me. But upon doing research and, like, reflecting on it for a bit, I think it might just be because us, as the audience and the camera, were kind of, like, in Fleabag's head. So it makes sense that people who she wouldn't explicitly name by name, like her father, why would she call him by his first name? We don't know his name. He's just Dad. Claire, obviously her sister, she'll call by her first name. But, like, her godmother, she just calls godmother, probably because she's such a horrible person that she doesn't even, like, need to address her by her first name because she doesn't think about her that often. So I think it might just be that, like, it was kind of, like, people who, she calls her boyfriend by his name, obviously. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was that, but then why wouldn't we know the priest's name, I guess? I don't know. That's what I was going to
say, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I'm of two minds about it. I think for season 1, honestly, I think it probably came more from, like, the adaptation of we're adapting a stage play and some people were named, some people weren't, and just kind of sticking with that. Maybe even just as, I don't want to say as a joke, but just as a deliberate kind of specific thing. And then potentially in season 2, it does kind of take on a different meaning than that. I don't know. Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't think there's, like, an actual explanation from her on why that's the case, but I would assume it probably just started as a thing that was happening because of the stage play, and then it was like, oh, this is a cool opportunity to do something unique with it.
That could be right, too. I actually didn't think about that. That, again, it is adapted from a stage play, so good point.
But I do like that you
I
attributed it to feminism immediately. Love that.
Yeah.
I just thought that was so cool. Like, if it is right, I might be just, like, making this up, but I have just never seen that before, where, like, a movement is worked into the very credits. Like, the credits are that's after the show, you know, so.
Yeah. I mean, I think it definitely could be one of those things where it's like, oh, this is a cool opportunity that's been given to us because of the stage play, so let's take that opportunity to do something interesting with it. Which I would
could be a mixture of things.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, like, obviously we're going to keep talking about characters, but because I was going to say, like, Phoebe Waller-Bridge isn't a hack. Like, of course she would, like, pay attention to stuff like that. It goes further than her not being a hack. She's probably, like, one of the best writers currently writing.
She's a genius, yeah.
Like, full stop. She's a great actress, too, but she's, like, first and foremost just, like, a phenomenal writer.
And I was surprised to see that the Phoebe, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is her name? That she was like the star and also the writer-director. That was really impressive too.
It's cool. Something I want to point out, and listen, I'm sure people that go on to listen to this podcast will know that I'm going to talk about a lot of things from the writing angle, because that's kind of how I came to movies. But something that I found interesting was in the, like, I guess, like, British TV model, it really is built more around, like, one person's vision, right? So she wrote, like, every episode. And, like, she potentially had, and I don't know the full details, she potentially had a writer's room of people, like, helping her flesh out scripts and stories, but ultimately it was her that sat down and, like, wrote every single one. Which isn't necessarily how things work in the American model. In fact, like, in most American shows, you have a writer's room and then everyone in the room, like, gets an opportunity to write a script, which sometimes works out, sometimes doesn't. Really, the only case I can think of where that's not true is actually, like, Aaron Sorkin in The West Wing, where he was like, nah, like, I'm Aaron Sorkin, I'm going to write every episode of the show. I don't care.
We'll have a whole episode on it.
Yeah, one day. But it's like, I really like that model. Unless you're doing something that's specifically, like, episodic, where, like, every episode's kind of its own thing. But if you're telling one long story, I really like the British model of, let's just bring on someone and have them write the whole thing out. And, yeah, we'll give them resources to, like, bounce ideas around on and flesh things out on. But, I mean, ultimately, it's all her. Yeah, she's a phenomenal writer and a great actress. So, I'm sure we'll talk about her more, but just going to leave that there.
I guess we'll go back to favorite characters. And so, as I was saying, Claire, the sister of the main character, who we'll refer to as Fleabag, because that's what the credits refer to her as. I think she was my favorite character. I liked her journey from the beginning of season 1 all the way to the end. And I also just liked any scene that Fleabag and Claire shared together. It was really great.
Yeah, they have really good chemistry together.
Yeah, seeing the relationship flesh out through the seasons was also really nice.
All right, Carol, who are some of your favorite characters, if you had to pick some?
Funnily enough, I knew I was going to ask that question, and I didn't think about it. The priest, easy. But that's probably because I'm attracted to him, so, like, I don't think I can let that... I don't think it's fair for me to say the priest solely because I am attracted to him, so I think I'm going to change it. So, yeah, maybe Fleabag herself. Martin, I think, was the most interesting, and I hated him the most, and was, like, more attached to watching his story progress, and ultimately I wanted to see him suffer. So the finale, which I'm sure we'll get to, was fantastic. And also just the actor who plays him was so good at being an asshole. So for that reason...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him... Oof. He's in Stranger Things, right? Things. And he is a dick in Stranger Things.
How did I not make that connection? I knew I'd seen him somewhere before, and for some reason just hadn't looked it up.
He's 100% Stranger Things.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the dude's like a famous actor. He's been in a lot of stuff, but, like, I know him from Stranger Things. So,
that's the last
so he's from Stranger Things,
yeah.
Oh, Stranger Things connections. Yeah. But from the last podcast, there was also a Stranger Things connection.
What was
Sam was in Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember the actor's name. Sorry to him right now. I know it somewhere.
Sean Astin.
Yeah.
He came to Windsor Comic Con. He gave a speech thing that we did.
We were, like, within 15 feet of him.
We were, like,
I got a really blurry photo.
The people in front of us, like, going into his hall, were, like, the last people to get accepted. And then they were like, sorry, guys, we can't let you in.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That was awful.
Like, just to, like, rub it in, they were like, sorry, you're, like, 1 minute late.
Yeah.
We can't let you in.
Oh, my God. Ouch.
So, Carol, I'm going to say, since you gave up on the priest, I'm going to pick the priest as my favorite character.
Yeah, because you can't say the attracted.
No, I can't say.
The reason you like him?
That's not why for me. No, I just...
Well, you can.
I mean, I'm not going to. That's not the reason why. I mean, first of all, he is great. Like, he's great in Sherlock. I love him. Let's just put that out there as an actor. But, no, the reason I picked him... he's, like, just so engaging whenever he's on screen, and, like, the way they play with him, like, also being able to break the fourth wall. Like, the first time it happened, I was like, oh shit, like this is crazy. Like I've never seen anything like this before. Where it's like yeah, it was just, I don't know. That whole character and like what he represents in Fleabag's life was just really interesting to me, and it was one of the few times in like a long time where I like saw a character on screen and was like, I've legitimately never seen a character like this on screen before. Like a character that like halfway through the story, like is able to break the fourth wall and calls out other people on doing it. But just, yeah, I mean, also his structure within the story as well. Yeah, he's great, and he's definitely, I think, my favorite character. I want to give a shout out in the first season to the ugly guy.
They call him Bus Rodent in the credits.
Yes. I don't really like him, but I just thought he was funny. So shout out to him.
I think bridging off of what you were talking about with fourth wall breaking, we should mention that the crux of the series is that the main character, Fleabag, is able to talk to the audience, or either talk to the audience or really talking to herself, but wear her conscience, I guess, as the audience. And when she meets this priest character who comes in season 2, the series is kind of elevated to the next step because he is able to sort of key into like when she's talking to her conscience, and even he starts to like break the fourth wall in the manner that she does. And when it happens, it's just super unexpected. So I think that was a major turning point, at least for me, in the series. That was one of my favorite moments, I think.
That is without a doubt. I think it's yeah.
It was in season 2, I think, like episode like 3 or 4. But the first time it happened, it felt almost like supernatural, like seeing him break the fourth wall and like almost interact with us. I was like, oh, what is happening? This is weird. Like it felt ghostly for some reason. It was it was a visceral experience.
I was gonna say, I think that partly goes to what Dan was talking about, which is the way it's like put together, because it feels wrong. It's like, this should not be, like, he shouldn't be able to like do that or call her out on that. The way the scene's constructed, it's great. Do you guys have any, I guess you can call them theories, I mean, like outside of just her like reflecting inward and talking to her conscience and like him being able to see that? Do you guys have any like interesting theories on what's like literally happening there, like that the fourth wall is supposed to represent?
It's interesting that you bring this up because it also bridges, like, it connects to something else I wanted to mention. Okay. I wanted to make a point of mentioning, which was like somewhere in season 2, I can't remember exactly where, but I began to think, like, is this all actually just like, is the plot an entire just metaphor, or is there some sort of literal nature to it? And in the end, I did arrive on, no, it's like a literal story being told. It's just a lot of the characters aren't named. It's not just taking place inside, someone's mind or whatever. But and
then it was all a
dream.
I
assumed something so like that. But no, I mean, at least for me, I arrived on the fact that it's a literal story. But yeah, I think for me, her ability to like talk to us directly is just sort of her looking inward,
right? And
therefore, like, the priest's ability to do that too, because he's a spiritual character. That's why he's able to do that as well.
Yeah, I read a bunch of like articles and like watched even like video essays about this, and everyone was kind of on the same page as you, Dan. It was kind of like most people agree, and I think I agree as well, that when she talks to us, it's her like thinking and being in her head, and people described it as like her dissociating, like from that someone from the outside would see it that way, and so he like notices that and calls her out on it. And like the whole reason that she even was able to make a second season, she said, is because she thought of incorporating a priest, and like the connection to God and constant discussion with God is similar to most people's inner monologues and how often they'll talk, and like that's the only reason, like the only way she said a second season would work was for someone to be able to be on that plane and recognize that in her. But yeah, that's what I think. That's what a lot of the internet thinks.
Yeah.
I also like that it wasn't like it took place in real time when she looked inside her, like when she self-reflected. It wasn't like Saved by the Bell style where like everything freezes, and it could take as long as like she needs. No, it actually takes place like if a real person was just taking a moment to like process something, you know?
Exactly.
The world moved around while she was doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why often it was just like a look to camera, because that's all you have time for sometimes, without being like obviously ignoring the people you're with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, genius.
Yeah, that's great. I want to ask you guys about something from season 1. We've talked a lot about season 2 because of the priest, obviously, and like that's great. But I was curious, at what point in season 1 did you, or maybe you didn't, cue into what was happening with her friend?
Boo.
Yeah, like was that because it's played? See, so here's the thing I'm curious about, right? I kind of felt like I cued in pretty quickly as to what happened there within their relationship of like, oh, okay, like her boyfriend cheated with Boo on with like her boyfriend cheated with Fleabag, and like whatever that stuff, you know, whatever happened follows from there.
Well, should we talk about Boo a little bit first?
Yeah. Let's.
I think because we haven't really.
Yeah.
Carol, do you want to take the reins on this?
Yeah. So Boo was Fleabag's best and closest friend and business partner, and they opened a cafe together. And at some point, Boo has a serious relationship with a man in her building, and they're like totally in love. And one night, Fleabag hooks up with him, and Boo finds out that the boyfriend cheated on her, but not with who. And to get back at him, she wants to hurt herself a little bit and go in the hospital to freak him out, and have him like come back and beg for forgiveness. But unfortunately, she ends up dying on accident, and it's super sad. And that's kind of Fleabag's main trauma throughout both seasons.
It's her inner conflict.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. So my question being, was that something you guys cued into before it was fully revealed? And if that's the case, do you feel like as an audience member you were supposed to be ahead of the mystery on that one and kind of know what's going on, and like the reveal doesn't matter as much as a surprise?
So just to clarify, you're talking about the reveal that Fleabag is the one that cheated with with Boo's boyfriend to indirectly cause her death.
Yeah, because you see like quick cuts and she makes reference to stuff or whatever, but it's not really made explicitly clear. I think until the second last episode.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you guys feel like you saw that coming, or was it like a genuine shocking moment?
I definitely didn't see it coming. I didn't predict it at all. So for me, I'd have to say it was shocking. Yeah.
Okay. Carol?
Yeah, I think it was one of the earlier episodes, like 2 or 3 maybe, where all you saw was a flash of like her unbuttoning, or not even necessarily her, but like unbuttoning pants or like a belt or whatever. And I think even just seeing that flash, I was like, oh, maybe. But I think I didn't want to believe it, because I know like the entire show is tied around Fleabag kind of like using sex as an escape, and like that kind of being her main, like, I guess, vice. But I don't know, I just was like, this is her closest and best friend, I can't imagine her doing that. But also I think it's important to mention that Fleabag's mother had died kind of before too, and so she was trying to deal with that guilt, and as mentioned, sex is her main escape for that, so that could be tied. But yeah, I don't know, so I thought so, but I tried to think that it wasn't the case and it would be explained in some other way.
Right. I definitely fall more into, I was pretty confident probably about halfway through that, I think that's what happened. But regardless, I think it goes to the quality of the writing in the show that even though it wasn't like the biggest like plot twist surprise moment, it's still like, it doesn't matter. Like even if you kind of know that a little bit, what actually happens from it and all that is still interesting enough that even if you kind of see it coming beforehand, it doesn't really matter one way or the other. I did feel a bit more, well, I don't want to talk about the stage play too much because that's not easily available and Dan hasn't seen it, but I feel like that element maybe worked a little bit better in the stage play. Not that it works bad in the show, but I kind of preferred how it was executed there.
Actually, yeah, not to like dwell on this too long, but I'm curious how it was portrayed in the play. Of like, do we get quick like hints that she was involved in some sort of like like I'm just asking basically how is it portrayed in the play?
Yeah. Carol, do you want to take? Have you seen the play how many times? Because I saw it the once.
Just
I don't know
once, because I had a link for it for only 48 hours.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't remember because I just know kind of the entire season 1 happened in a flashback sort of in the play. Because, like, you know how at the beginning of the show she's in the meeting to get a loan with the guy and, like, takes her top off and it's a whole thing? In the stage play, the beginning and the end of the play are in that exact same meeting. So in between, you kind of hear her, like, reminiscing on her shitty year or however long of a time period it was. But I don't remember how the boo thing was brought up.
I think, I mean, it was just done with, obviously it's just her on stage. So it was just done with, like, dialogue cues here and there. The reason I think it works a little bit better in the stage play is because the stage play is only, what, an hour and a half?
Yeah, I think like
something
70
like that?
or 80 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, and I just feel like that type of mystery is kind of better suited to a more, like, condensed period of time, whereas over the span of 8 episodes, it's kind of like, it's over the span of 8 episodes, but you can never go more than, let's say, 2 episodes without showing some reference to it. Otherwise, it'll feel really weird if at the end of the series it comes back up. And so, like, having that repeated interaction with the plot was a little, like, I mean, there's no other, choice to it. But for me, it was a little bit like, oh, okay, I think I see where this is going. But I mean, obviously it was, like, executed the best possible way they could execute it from the play. And it's so essential to her character and to what the whole show's about that it doesn't really matter one way or the other. But, yeah, I was just curious to see how that part hit you guys.
And while we're talking about Boo, I can't think of any better time to bring this up, but it's something that I keep forgetting to mention when I'm watching it with all of the friends that I make watch it. But at her mother's funeral, when Fleabag says, like, she doesn't know what to do with the love she had for her mother now that she's gone, and then Boo says, I'll take it, and then she dies, like, that just, oof. I just needed to say how hard that hit me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Incredibly.
just had to say it.
Yeah.
So sad.
We should point something out here. This is a really funny show. Like, I know we're fixating on plot elements that make it sound like this really intense drama. The show is, like, really, it's hysterical.
It's hilarious.
It's so funny. Yeah.
And that's that's really part of the genius.
Yeah.
Like, it genre bends so well. And it actually, I'll just mention too, when I was a few episodes into the first season, I was thinking, like, oh, I was really expecting this to be like a drama, like a full out drama. And we get that, like, that definitely comes in later down the line, but like all the way through, even in the darkest parts, it's still hilarious. I think anyone could really enjoy this series.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of on purpose, because even, like, the season 1 artwork is just, like, her sobbing with mascara running down her face, and it just says Fleabag. But then the second season is, like, some mock stained glass window, and she's pretending to be a saint holding her guinea pig Hillary. So, like, once you get to the second season, like, the duality and, like, how funny it is kind of more obvious. But if you just saw, like, the title screen for the first season, you're like, oh, this is gonna be, like, sad.
Yeah.
So
I think
they get you.
She does a really good job, again, speaking to her, like, as a writer writing this whole thing. Like, both seasons' first, like, scenes, and I would say the entire first episode of the second season, like, so perfectly encapsulate the tone of the entire show, where it's like, after seeing that, it's like, okay, I'm totally on board for the flip-flopping that we're going to do, and it works perfectly well. It's not like the show started in a super dramatic way, and then when the dark comedy elements come in, it doesn't work. But it's like right from the get-go, you're totally on board with everything that's happening. Like the first episode, like the first scene, obviously, is like really funny. It's a funny scene.
Do not watch it with
like,
your parents. I made that mistake.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up, pretty vulgar. No. But the entire, like, dinner in the second episode
Oh, it's
is
great.
like
Yeah.
fantastic. It's just like, oh, this is like her just in her prime. Just like every line of dialogue and like every cut, every look to camera, everything is so perfectly put together. It's like, yeah, this perfectly encapsulates the entire show. Like this is, yeah, it's great.
But even her starting in the bathroom with a bloody nose telling us this is a love story.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the first line of dialogue. Like it's perfect.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, what is this season gonna be? Like, I'm ready to go. You're strapped in.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
But I still didn't expect the love story that it ended up being. So she got me.
Yeah. Well, not many people fall in love with priests.
I mean, after this show, apparently many did.
Yeah, well, that always happens. Remember after Avatar when people were depressed they didn't live on Pandora?
Oh my god.
Like, guys, why would you want to live on Pandora? Like, grow up.
Also, Pandora's fake, but that's not the point.
Yeah. No.
Wait, it is?
Yeah, Dan. Sorry to break it to you.
It's just past Mars, actually. It's its own planet. Yeah. Okay.
So, guys, to bring this all back around to J.R.R Tolkien, I guess what I'd have to say is her writing style really reminded me of his in a lot of places. Yeah.
Are you just self-promoting for J.R.R.
Yeah.
or do you actually feel that way?
No, I don't feel that way at all. Because her writing is very concise, to the point, witty, and his writing is
It's whip smart, yeah.
yeah. She really is like, this is gonna be the only comparison I ever make to any writer ever, but like really reminds me a lot of like Aaron Sorkin writing, of just like.
I knew you were gonna say.
Well, it's just like, but the thing is.
They do talk
like,
fast.
It's just like really fast-paced dialogue, but also you like fully understand what everyone's feeling and what everyone's doing. And I think one of the things like Sorkin talks a lot about, because I've listened to every podcast, interview, whatever, is the idea of even if you miss like a couple line of dialogues here or there, if something's like well written, just in like the sound of it and the performance of it, like you get what's happening. You know, you don't need to understand every single detail. And I think that's true with her writing as well, where...
Yeah, it's not always what's said, it's like how it's said. Is that what you're
100%.
saying?
Like, I don't know if I genuinely, like fully heard every, let's say, line of dialogue during that dinner scene. Like, there might have been quick cross-cuts that, you know, or people talking over each other where it's like, oh, what? But, like, you know what's happening. Like, you fully are aware of what's happening, and you totally get the whole thing without needing that. So...
Yeah, and maybe you're not even meant to.
Yep. So that's my J.R.R Tolkien talk for today.
That turned into Aaron Sorkin talk.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Just a linguist.
Yeah. Well, he is just a linguist, to be fair.
Are we gonna have a segment on every episode where it's like J.R.R Tolkien chimes?
But then I just talk about Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Okay, I want to know, did you guys have a favorite, like, scene or moment or line from, like, each season, maybe? Because I wrote mine, and that's what most of my paragraphs of notes are. So, do you guys have any, like, moments that stood out from each season?
Okay, Marco, go first, because I need to think of my season 1 moment. I know my season 2 moment, but you can go first.
Here's what we'll do. I will do mine, Dan will do his, and then Carol can just read through.
Neither of us know.
Yeah, and then Carol can read through her entire list, and
You'll
we'll
listen to me
just go.
talk for
Oh
like
yeah,
an
that's a good
hour,
one.
The end of the episode.
We'll just go. Hey, remember that? Yeah, that was cool. Here's mine. From season 2, in terms of like favorite scene, like anything at the dinner table. Season 2, episode 1, for me was just like, it's so up my alley, and I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I could just watch like 6 hours of this. This is fantastic. I also loved all the moments of Fleabag with the priest when like something about like going against religion would happen, and then like a picture would fall. Like anything like that was just like, it's such like an old sitcom like joke, but it was just so funny every time it happened. I was like, oh, that's great. That's really funny.
But then it also, like, backed up why, in the end, ultimately, I'm sure we'll talk about it, he chose God.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't ever a moment where he's like, oh, maybe, like, God doesn't exist, or, like, my love's stronger, or, like, no, like, God was there to remind him every single time he chose Fleabag over him, like, no, that's a bad idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those would be mine, I think. If I had to pick a season 1 moment, I think I would just pick the opening scene because I was like, okay, Carolina's making me watch this show. What is this show? And then that scene happened, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna watch this show. That's really funny. I like that.
Okay. I think my season 1 moment would be, I think it was like episode 4 when they're at the retreat.
Yep.
And so Fleabag, like, well, actually, I guess I'll just quickly mention before that, in I think the very first episode, she applies for a loan for her cafe, and the loan broker is talking about how like the bank has gone through a bunch of sexual harassment, like lawsuits and stuff. So in episode 4, when she's at this like retreat, she runs into this guy again, and it turns out he's there because like he was caught in a sexual harassment like lawsuit, and there's just a really nice conversation between those two. It gets really sad too, like it's very dramatic, just about like redemption in general. I just like that moment a lot. I think that's my favorite season 1 moment. Season 2, definitely my favorite moment is when Fleabag brings the priest to the cafe, and he's like playing around with Hillary, the guinea pig, and he's the first character that likes the guinea pig, which is obviously like hugely symbolic. But it's also the scene where like Fleabag gives a little look to the camera, and then the priest also does, and it's like it's played off so comedically. Again, like especially with his energy. What's the name of the actor? I can't remember
his name either, but he's great.
He's Moriarty on Sherlock.
Yeah.
Anyway. He's super charismatic.
Andrew Scott.
Right. Yes. Thank you. But yeah, when that's the first time I think that he like explicitly looks at the camera too, and like it's played off so charismatically, and it's just it felt really joyous that he was now able to do this too. I don't know why, it felt really welcoming for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my 2 moments.
Okay,
can I just say quickly?
Yes.
I know Carol's going to go down her list, but I just want to say quickly because I totally forgot. Because I think the retreat episode, like if I had to rank the episodes in season 1, is probably overall on the lower end for me. There's lots of stuff in that where I'm like, whatever, take it or leave it. But all the stuff about the guys who like got caught doing sexual harassment, and they're all like really aggressive, like in their like whatever, like they're trying to get like better,
shouting at sex dolls.
Oh my god, that was like the funniest thing. I was dying. Yeah, because again, like that episode, yeah, it was like there were parts where not lost me, but I was just like, okay, this is another episode in the show. But when that kind of stuff was happening, I was like, that's great, that's really awesome. Some of my favorite stuff from season 1.
Well, I think one of the reasons that I really liked that episode, it might have been one of my favorites from season 1, because like I noticed, well, it's pretty easy to notice that the women's side of the retreat, it's a split like women's side and men's side, and the women couldn't talk, and all the men were told to do was like shout and be verbal. And I thought like that's obviously like it's so unfair that the women's side are not allowed to say anything and the men are allowed to say whatever they want. So I just loved how that played into the theme of the show. I think that's really why I like that episode a lot. Anyway, sorry, Carol, you can get to your moments now.
That was also one of my favorite episodes because obviously I couldn't pick one because that's who I am as a person. But yeah, I like that she had to slip in that like commentary, and like it was just so hilarious to see the two side by side. But also, Marco, you were saying like it was just kind of another episode and nothing really happened, but I really liked the episode because I liked how they tied in that she, like Fleabag finally revealed that Martin tried to kiss her at Claire's birthday, and how Claire kind of like ran away from that news initially. I liked how, because like it made sense to me that it was revealed that way because they like weren't really close and like it wouldn't have come up organically in any other way necessarily. But yeah, so I liked that episode for that reason, and also just all of the comedy that brought was fantastic. But I think overall the season 1 finale was my favorite, just because of how everything was revealed. Like Claire showed up to this exhibition with Martin despite having told Fleabag at the end of the last episode like she was going to break up with him and move to Finland and pay for her to keep running the cafe. And even how, because I think that was the first time that out loud it was said what Fleabag had done to Boo, because it was in that moment where Claire was like, how could I believe you after what you did to Boo? And then I think is finally when all of the pieces of the puzzle finally came together.
I think you're right.
Yeah, you're right.
And so like, despite like knowing that that's probably what happened, like just the way it was revealed was so shocking and brutal, and just seeing her get so drunk after and just drop the glasses, which, I mean, thank God, because the stepmother, or godmother, not stepmother, I guess yet, but the godmother asking her to work, that was so frustrating. I don't know why she went along with it in the first place. And so seeing her break those glasses, even though it wasn't really anything explicitly to do with the godmother, was just so good to see. And then her talk with the insurance guy at the end really got to me, when he like decided to review her loan application, and he's like, I thought it was a cafe for guinea pigs. But she just like broke down and was talking about like how utterly alone she feels, and how she feels like her value is tied only to sex and being viewed as a sexual person, and how it like she either is insane or everyone feels the same way and no one's talking about it. Like, I think there's only really 2 moments in the series where she kind of breaks down like that and has those monologues where like maybe there's things that we see or she hints at, but like explicitly saying what she's thinking and how she's feeling to another person. And it just like it hits you so hard because it's so rare. That's season 1.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of rare for her character.
I think the only other time... Oh, sorry, Dan, you can go.
I think we're going to say the same thing, but I'm assuming the other time from season 2 was in the confessional, when she's talking to the priest, which is also a great scene.
Phenomenal scene. Yeah, that scene is it's great from start to finish, and just like it's such a cool thing of like you establish that like there's this priest character, and so like she's gonna spill her guts in a confessional. It's just such it's like an obvious framing device, but at the same time, I don't know. I feel like it was well done, the whole thing overall. So good use of that. Good use of Catholicism. Are they Catholic? No, they're English, right? They're English, so it wouldn't be Catholic.
I think it's Catholic.
No, because remember like that the one no, because remember, guys, they were, but then there was that.
But I thought they mentioned that it was Catholic.
There was that one king who like wanted to divorce his wife, so he was like, I'm going to start a new religion. Yeah, but that's their religion.
Not anymore. I think they have Catholic priests now.
But I'm pretty sure that's like the majority religion there still.
But I'm pretty sure in the first episode of season 2...
We do not have fact checkers. Yeah. We cannot be saying... Do not listen to anything we're saying.
Someone out there listening right now, can you just double check for us?
Listen, whether or not like he's Catholic, if they say that in the first episode, then I guess it is Catholic. So I stand by my first statement. But just to get the historical context right, that's not the majority religion there, I'm pretty sure. Doesn't matter.
Thanks, Marco.
J.R.R Tolkien told me.
There's the tie-in.
He's just a historian, right?
But also, speaking of confessional scene, you guys are tying this in so well. That was my favorite scene. One of, obviously, once again, 2 favorite scenes of season 2. Once again, just because, like, seeing her, like, break down like that. I mean, obviously, we did kind of expect it to happen. But just, like, the energy and like the tension and like the way it was filmed, I guess that's one of the times that I like noticed kind of the editing and the setup of it explicitly. And I also like watched a video breaking down that scene, because of course I did. But just like it felt like you were there and like you could feel the sexual tension, but also like her sadness and just like how like fed up she was almost with the situation and with her life. And like it was I think it was one of the first times that the tie-in between like her and her thoughts and Catholicism was kind of explicitly mentioned, because she said she wishes she had someone to tell her what to do every day, kind of like he tells people based on the word of God. And so that tie-in was just so like subtle and perfect, and also just her speech was just so relatable, because I think we're all like pretty young, we're young adults, and just like not knowing what to do every day and feeling like the decisions you make sometimes aren't the best ones, and just if you had someone who could tell you the right thing to do at any time, you think that's what you want, and like how nice that would be. But yeah, that was definitely a breakdown moment for me. Until episode 6, when I cried even more. I watched that. I've seen the finale, I think, 3 extra times just on its own, because like I've ended a night and been like, I don't really want to watch a new show. Let's just destroy my emotions with the series finale of Fleabag again.
Right.
It also kind of it oddly connects to Lord of the Rings when I think about it, because Fleabag gets the sad ending and Claire gets the happy ending.
So
just like
Frodo?
Sam and Frodo.
Fleabag, Frodo, FF. There we go.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Claire and Sam.
Claire and Sam, yeah. the dynamic duo.
Yeah, the finale just ended what we know of all the relationships, like, so well. Like, she had that discussion with her father, and they seem to, like, now understand each other a bit better. And Claire finally tells Martin to leave her, like, thank God. But, like, that was just such a fun scene to watch, too.
That felt good.
Yeah, that was so good. And when she took off her wig and ran away to be with other Claire, especially after initially she's like, what would I do? Go to the airport? What if I knew what his terminal was? How crazy would I be? Like, it was just so fantastic. And then, obviously, the priest choosing God and his whole speech at the wedding, and how, like, it started to dawn on her his choice, and then they had to sit at that damn bus stop and talk about it. Oh, and she finally said she loved him and he loved her, and just, it'll pass. Oh, it was a lot.
I was not expecting that, actually. I really thought that they were going to end up together.
Really?
And I know that's obvious, that seems like the more like
cliche,
I guess, the more cliche ending.
Yeah.
But I felt, my one complaint is I felt like it would have been a more fitting ending if that had happened. Just like me personally.
Interesting. But it's a real,
I really wasn't expecting that.
It's a real Bella Jacob Edwards situation from Twilight, you know?
Marco just watched Twilight.
Listen, Fleabag is Bella. Well, see, this doesn't really work because she doesn't choose anyone at the end.
It doesn't have to work.
The priest is Bella, Fleabag is Jacob, and God is Edward.
Interesting.
There we go.
Because
the priest choose. Well, no, because Bella is with Edward at the end of the movies, right?
Yeah, fair.
Okay. I can't confirm.
I'd also just like to say,
you will at some point, Dan.
I'm looking at a study right here.
A study?
I'll cite it in a second.
Oh my god, is this about the religion?
The majority religion in the UK.
Oh my god.
At 59.5% is Christian, not Catholic, Christian.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And this study is a very serious study done by study-ukbritishcouncil.org. It's a .org.
Okay.
You got to pay attention. Okay? There you go. I was right.
Okay, dumb question. Is Christianity a branch of Catholicism, or Catholicism a branch of Christianity?
Catholicism is a brand of, I guess if you want to use the word brand, is a brand of Christianity.
She said branch.
Yeah.
Oh, branch. I thought she said brand. I was like, yeah, brand, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
No, Christianity is like the whole thing, and then there's like Catholicism, and then there's like the UK one, and then there's like other ones. There's a bunch. There's like Protestant.
Okay.
There's like a whole
bunch. So you said they're Christian.
So they are 59.9% Christian, and like there is,
Very
obviously
vague.
Catholics within that, but
okay.
You can continue on now, Caroline, now that I've suitably derailed everything.
I mean, obviously I love it all, but just those were some moments that hit me extra hard. Because I think it's interesting that we've done this podcast because we all kind of come from different backgrounds. Like, Marco, you already mentioned you're, like, the writer, and then Dan, I mean, you just, like, study cinema, so you like all of the camera stuff also. But I'm just here for the emotion. That's it. Whatever, if something makes me feel something, I'm in. That's what I focus on. The writing and obviously the cinematography contributes to that, but that is not what I think of when I then think of the show. It's just, this made me feel so sad and so happy and so seen and just so good.
I mean, that's the rawest take, so that's kind of the most valuable one, right?
Yeah. But also the most basic and uninformed and no theory behind it. Just, I feel good.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, and I mean, I guess this goes to a larger discussion about what is the purpose of art? Because
yes,
I think
that's
that
what
is
we're
the
getting
purpose.
into
Exactly.
today.
I'd agree with you on that, Dan. Dan and I can sit here and talk about really specific technique type things, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter if you didn't fucking like the show. So
it comes down to was this impressionable? Did it leave an effect or not?
Yeah. And this is kind of unrelated, but I was looking through my notes again, and we were talking about what we think the camera means and stuff. And in interviews, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, she doesn't really say much about what means what or why something happened, but she just refers to her talking to the audience as her secret camera friend. I don't know why or what that means.
Okay.
It makes it sound a lot less deep than we said, but that's what she calls it.
Oh yeah, and actually, even during the episode, I think in season 2, when she's cashing in the therapy voucher, doesn't she actually mention that when she's asked if she has friends, she gestures to the camera as well? I think
she just looks
sort
at
of
us,
signifying that the audience are her friends. Yeah,
which is kind of sad because we're not real technically in the in the story of her world. But that's another issue I'm sure she's working through now that she's said goodbye to us, her secret camera friend.
How do we feel about that very finite ending of we're definitely not getting any more Fleabag content?
Good.
It makes sense.
And I mean that in a way of it's perfect how it is.
Yeah. It would just be pandering to the audience and a money grab if she were to make more. The fact that she even made a season 2, I know she obviously wrestled with it. And I think if I watched season 1 after it came out and then had that break and then heard a season 2 is being made, I would probably kind of be what is going to happen? Why? But yeah, the way it ended, it wouldn't make sense at all to have any more.
The difference between the British model and the American model a lot of the times with writers is that the British model, once they're done telling a story, they fully just let them stop and they don't badger them for more. So I mean, pretty famously, I think most people's touchstone with that would be The Office, the original British show, which only had 2 seasons, and then they were yeah, we're done. And I guess there's pros and cons, right? Because if you I would say the Americans' Office best stuff was probably seasons 3 to whenever Jim and Pam's wedding is
5. 6.
Yeah, I would say their wedding should have probably been the end of the show, but that's a discussion for another day. So there's pros and cons, but I like that she told her thing, and if she ever has an idea where she's I really want to come back to this, they'd probably let her. But no one's gonna force her for the sake of, hey, this show made money, you need to make another season, which again we'll talk about in another episode. Kind of happened to the West Wing a little bit, so we can.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm
really?
about to start watching it, so that
how many
does
seasons
not
did that
excite
have?
me.
So West Wing had 7. I only have provided you with the first 4. The first 4 were the ones written by Sorkin and directed by his partner Tommy Schlamme. They're partners.
Oh, I've heard of Tommy.
Is that actually?
That's literally his name. Also, for both of you, I know Carolina knows this, Dan as well. There's a podcast called The West Wing Weekly. I would highly recommend listening to that with every episode. It's great.
I will.
But long story short,
Okay.
After season 4, Sorkin was, I guess, running out of juice a little bit to be able to write all 24 episodes. And so they were well, we'll just let other people write. And he was well, no, this is my thing that I'm doing. And then they were well, no, because it's making money. And so he was well, fuck you. And then he left. So then it went on for 3 seasons after without Sorkin. Season 5, not great. And then season 6 and 7, they kind of ended the show pretty well, I think, overall. But it still kind of felt totally different. So I'm glad that that's not going to happen to Fleabag. I'm glad that, some other hot up-and-coming person isn't just going to, get to write the property because it made money and they own it or whatever. It's no, this was her thing and she did it and she gets to see it out. So, yeah.
I too am very glad that's not going to happen, for the record.
Okay, but then some overarching things. What do you think is the meaning of the fox? Like the priest being chased by a fox, we initially think is just in his head, but then in the end proves to probably be true.
I have a theory.
Go ahead.
I don't, so go ahead, Marco.
I think it's a very clever metaphor for him being foxy.
Stop. If that's
I don't know what else.
Carolina,
it could
what
be.
do you think?
I would be so bad. Okay, I hadn't really thought about it until I watched an interview with her and Stephen Colbert. And so he asked her, what do you think the fox is? And she's like, I can't tell you, but what do you think? And he came up with this super deep, super profound metaphor, because there's a poem by Francis Thompson that was written, I think, in like the late 1800s called like The Hound of Heaven. And it starts with, I fled him down the nights and down the days. I fled him down the arches of the years. I fled him down the labyrinthine ways out of my own mind, and in the midst of tears I hid from him and under running laughter. And for some reason Stephen Colbert knew that poem by heart and was like, that's what Fleabag's about. Like, that's what the fox is. She kind of explicitly said, like, I wish it was that deep and that cool, but it's not. Yeah, I don't have any idea. I just kind of wanted to toss in the Stephen Colbert thought, because that was super intriguing to me, that his mind went there, first of all.
This is a real English teacher scenario here.
Yeah, literally.
Because I feel like Stephen Colbert is doing the English teacher thing of, like, let's read into it. And as someone who has, like, listened to a lot of writers talk about, like, their writing process...
Yeah, it's never
I am
deep.
I am 95% certain that it was like, hey, like, this would be a funny joke. What animal should we pick? And then they were like, oh, he's supposed to be a hot priest, so I don't know, a fox? That's funny. I am 95% sure that's how that came about. But
yeah, I didn't have any other theory for that, so I'd probably have to agree.
Yeah.
I think people are putting too much weight into it, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. It's like that phenomenon of, like, after you go through a breakup and, like, every song is, like, exactly written, tailored to, like, fit your life, and it's just because, like, you're searching for meaning in it. If I had to guess, I would say it's probably just, like, a joke, but, you know, it can serve as a metaphor if you're Stephen Colbert and you know a random poem.
That's, yeah, fair. Okay, and then why
Any other
do you
random
think...
things, Kara?
Yes.
Okay, go on.
Why? Of course. I have so many random things. And this one just came to me while we were recording. But yeah, we don't know Fleabag's name. But why do you think it's Fleabag?
Yeah, that's a good
like,
question,
what a random name thing. Like, I don't even... Like, before this show, I've never thought of the words flea and bag together in any way.
I think it's just like... I think it's sort of self-deprecating, almost as if she gave herself that name because she's just so disgusted with her lifestyle choices. When we meet her, that is, not towards the end, but that's what I assumed anyway.
That would make sense.
I have a vague memory that may or may not be a false memory of hearing somewhere that was a reference that she put in deliberately to something from her life.
Huh.
I could be totally wrong on that. Then let's
Well,
assume I am.
We have no fact checkers, so I'm
Because
going
I
to
have
take
no
it
fact. I
as
have no way of. I have no way of. And honestly, like, you have prepared pages of notes, so if you didn't find that reference somewhere in an interview.
Most of the notes were just my feelings. The
Okay.
actual factual notes, like, from her and from interviews, are like a few lines. It's mostly just
Okay.
me being like, I loved this. This was so good. I want to talk about this.
I thought I heard that somewhere, but if that's not the case, then I have no idea. I can't speculate as to what that... Yeah, because I've never heard that expression either. I would assume,
Yeah.
like Dan, it's probably just supposed to be self-deprecating. It's one of those things where, like we were talking about earlier, like, the meaning of the words is less important as, like, what they sound like and, like, what it elicits. And, like, Fleabag is just, like, a, like, lethargic... disgusting.
Yeah.
So...
Okay, and I don't really have any more prompts left, but I feel like we haven't talked about the godmother enough. I want to know your
Okay.
opinions of her, because we talked about favorite characters, and obviously she isn't going to be one, because she's the worst. But yeah, just, like, what did you think? What did you feel? Because I had a friend who I obviously forced to watch this, and she was watching it, and she said, like, there were multiple times where, like, the godmother character just was so infuriating, and it seemed like, and I guess it kind of, like, she was so horrible and never really got like, we never saw her get her just desserts. Like, Martin, yeah, obviously he was trash, and so we saw him then get broken up with, but nothing really happened to the godmother, and arguably she was equally as horrible of a person. So, thoughts?
I agree. She was, I mean, probably the second worst character behind Martin. Martin's, I would say, the absolute worst, and we can also talk more about him, I feel like. But yeah, for the godmother / stepmother, I think you're right. She didn't really get her just desserts, but when she, like, her marrying Fleabag's father, Fleabag and Claire's father, it was kind of like a tragic moment. Like, she had already corrupted her father, even though Fleabag and her father had made amends by the end. That relationship was sort of doomed already, and it was to serve a lesson for Fleabag's future relationships and Claire's future relationships as well.
Yeah, she is, I mean, she's a real bitch, man. Like, let's put that out on Front Street. She is the worst, but I want to give a quick shout out, though, to Olivia Colman, who plays her.
So good.
Because
oh yeah,
that is, like, a phenomenal performance of just, like, loving to hate someone. You know what I mean? Of just, like, that, like, oh my god, this is, like, the worst person ever, but, like, yeah, she just plays it in such a way where it's like she relishes it so much, and it's great.
She was very Professor Umbridge from Harry Potter.
And that's exactly...
And I had to look up for a second
yeah,
to make sure that it wasn't the same person.
that's exactly the analogy I was going to make. It's like, it is...
Oh, sorry.
No, you're totally good. It is the Professor Umbridge, like, relationship, I guess, right? Where she's not, I guess, the primary antagonist, I guess you could say, but she kind of serves to build up the protagonist in a way where they can, like, overcome the overall struggle or whatever. And I think she plays the same role in this, very Umbridge-like role in multiple ways, but I think, yeah, her overall role in the story in this definitely, like, is that, right? Like, there are bigger things going on, but it's, like, confronting her, and what goes on there is significant to Fleabag's character development and being able to then, like, solve the bigger stuff that's going on in the story. So, yeah.
Yeah, and just to say, I know I said in the end she doesn't get her just desserts, but if we ever do get people that, like, yell at us in the comments, I know in the end she stole the statue back, and, like, in theory that was her getting even and getting back at her. But I just don't think that's enough. Personally. Like, she slapped her in the face.
Yeah.
And her father saw, and, like, nothing came of that. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and even the statue thing, it's sort of, by the end of the series, it's like, oh, okay, this is just going to be a back and forth thing that'll probably go on even more in their lives. So it's not really, like, getting back at her as much as it is, like, a here we go again moment. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think that was enough either for just desserts, quote unquote.
I couldn't think of the word.
No, that's right.
I don't know. I'm gonna use that term.
Yeah, that's an expression
too going forward.
I know, but I was thinking of a word and it didn't come to me. You know when that happens?
Yeah, all the time.
Punishment.
All the time. Punishment.
I wanted to see her punished.
I'm of two minds about it. I get what you guys are saying. And yeah, in that, like, it was so satisfying in Harry Potter when Umbridge just gets wrecked by I think it's the Centaurs, right, that end up taking her.
Yeah.
Which would have been satisfying to see, but...
Centaurs?
Yeah.
Taking the godmother.
Yes. No, that exact scene would have, like, they just take her to a forest and for some reason those guys are there. I do, I mean, what you guys are saying, right, about her stealing the statue again and it feeling like this small thing, but I think...
And I guess her cat.
Yeah.
Let loose. That too.
I guess that's more like...
Oh, yeah.
More to be... I don't know. For a series that's so deliberate, I kind of feel like that's an acknowledgement of, well, this is a terrible person that's in my life, but just because there's a terrible person in your life doesn't mean that they're always going to lose. Like, terrible people exist, and, like, I have to deal with others. Like, I have to deal with my shit, and, like, here's this terrible person, and, like, we're going to have a constant battle, but, like, to resolve that would feel I guess, antithetical to like what the show is. And in the same way with the ending, where like as satisfying as it would have been for them to be together in terms of like what the show is and what it's about and like Fleabag's growth, it's not as satisfying as an audience member, but I feel like it makes sense in the story itself. But yeah, I mean, I would have loved to see her get wrecked, and that would have been great because she is evil. So
Yeah, it is more realistic that way, though. And I understand this isn't a fantasy show where everything's gonna end up perfectly. Although
Yeah.
I think if it did end up that way, I know I would have liked it less. So as much as I'm saying I did want to see her suffer, get punished, have her just desserts, I do think it would have taken away from the show.
yeah, I mean,
But
it would have felt weird
damn, she's
if
horrible.
yeah, it would have felt weird if the show, like, not to be a downer, but it would have felt weird if like everything ended up working out for her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it was like, aha, and like I got rid of her, and also like stuff ended up working out with the priest, or even if like none of both of those things happened, but even if one of those things happened, I think it's like that immediate satisfaction of like, oh yay, like this character has the thing. But then the more you think about it, it's like, I don't know if that really works overall. And I guess like if you're starting from that endpoint, you could have like changed stuff earlier on to then make it kind of feel more natural in the show. But just for like the tone of the show, I kind of feel like she does need to have that moment of like not fully resolving everything in the best way at the end. But you know, there's different.
Fleabag gets her just desserts.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like we did see her work on herself, and like parts of her life did improve. It would be very weird if everything did. Like it's nice that the cafe worked out because she came up with a new idea and got the loan, and her relationship with her sister did improve, and her relationship with her dad improved, and she lost weight and got fit, as we saw in the first episode of season 2. But yeah, I guess not everything works out. So that also is kind of what was extra heartbreaking too, because it was like, oh yeah, that is real life. We can't like we can't always go what we want. Damn.
Well, and I think go on, Dan.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, going back to her speech in the church, in the confessional that we have established is a Catholic church. I think I'm just gonna keep bringing that one up so we can't edit it out. I'm thinking that like
you're editing this one, so it's
in that
it doesn't
it's all on you.
I'm gonna put just a series of drops in here of me saying something ridiculous. What I was gonna say was that in that scene, in the confessional, and she talks about like having someone make decisions for you or whatever, like that's a big part of it, and like how much easier that would be and that kind of stuff. I think the stuff that gets resolved by the end of the series is stuff that gets resolved like because of her ability to take control of like her own life and her own actions, and then the stuff that's left not resolved is stuff that she couldn't control. And I think that's part of the show as well, where it's like, well, your stepmother is a bitch. Yeah. And like there's nothing you can do about that, and like this priest is always going to choose God over you. There's nothing you can do about that, but like here are the things you can control, and like here are the choices you can make, so you make those ones, which seems to be kind of a theme of the show. But
yeah, and another way that I guess you can sort of think about it too is Claire is now going to go on to live the life that Fleabag wants for herself, but she's now able to inspire Claire to live it for her, even if she won't be able to or immediately be able to. Claire is like sort of continuing. It's like the good ending versus the bad ending, like we were talking about before.
Yeah.
So now Claire gets to enjoy those moments when Fleabag maybe can't, because of what she learned from her sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, Claire's arc was almost as satisfying as Fleabag's arc. It was really fun to watch her grow, because she was also kind of infuriating at the beginning. Just how, like, much of a tight ass she was, like, so serious all the time, so angry all the time. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense why, because she was...
in an entertaining
way. You didn't hate her ever. And, like, seeing who she lived with, you kind of get it. I wouldn't be the happiest person.
Speaking of which, can we talk more about
Martin? Let's do it. Let's end this with a nice deep dive on Martin.
You brought up a really good point before, and I was thinking about this one as I was watching too, is like, he's a horrible character, but he's one of the most interesting on screen for sure. Like any scene that he was in, I was like, I'm in to hate this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he is just the scum of the earth. You know what I mean? He's just like the worst. Like, oh my god, I can't stand him. That being said, again, like with Olivia Colman, could not have casted that role better.
No.
That guy is just like so good at
He's such
just
a
being a
worm.
worm. Like literally, like you know, like Wormtongue from Lord of the Rings. That's his name, right? Like the guy when the priest.
Yeah.
Not the priest, but like when Gandalf shows up and does an exorcism. Not to make every episode about Lord of the Rings or whatever, but there's that like that like wormy guy there. Like it's literally Martin. So yeah.
He does an exorcism? I just watched these movies.
Remember, because there's what's the king's name?
Well, you like
Theoden. Theoden's all like old.
when like Saruman's
Yes.
talking through Theoden.
Yes.
And then Gandalf shows up and he like rips his cloak off and he's Gandalf the White now. And
Yeah.
then everyone's like, "Oh shit!" And
Yeah.
then he does an exorcism. Yeah, good times.
Yeah, I'm right there with you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so totally the same character. Yeah, I'm glad we bothered to bring up Lord of the Rings again.
J.R.R would be remiss if I didn't. So
I honestly thought you were gonna say Wormtongue from Harry Potter, the rat
Okay, we
guy.
keep
Oh, him
referencing
too.
that.
Peter
I haven't
Pettigrew.
seen that yet. Wait till I have.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I referenced-
I keep forgetting that. You
I
haven't
referenced
seen-
Twilight. I haven't even finished it yet. And I'm just making assumptions because of how obvious the storytelling is. So,
Can't wait for the Twilight episode.
guys, if you want to see a Twilight episode, share this podcast with your friends. Give it a like.
Comment
Let
down
us know.
below.
Comment down below. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube. Oh, yeah. We should have pointed this out at the start, but if you are watching this on YouTube and have no context for this, we're also on Spotify now. So,
Yeah.
check
we're
us out
on
there.
Multiple listening platforms: Spotify, Anchor, a couple I haven't heard of. Maybe, hopefully, eventually Apple Music or Apple Podcasts. I don't know how that works, but it's all in the works. So you don't have to watch. You can just listen if you wish.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we have multiple options for you guys now.
Yeah, trying to be
Okay.
accessible, reach the masses. You know, how else are we going to get famous, guys?
That's the goal, boys and Carol.
Thanks.
Any final parting thoughts on Fleabag?
Well, I mean, I definitely just want to say, like, I can't remember if we did a recommendation at the end of episode 1, but whether we did or whether we didn't, I have to recommend this to anyone listening, like, or watching. No, listening, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I have to recommend this. I knew nothing about it a week ago, and I mean, like, I'm in love with the show now.
Another
So
convert.
I feel like anyone could easily get into this.
I mean, now we've ruined quite a bit of it, so I hope they would have watched it before. But honestly, it's worth it, even if now you know everything that happens. Still go back. You'll have a great time. You'll laugh a lot. You'll cry.
Yeah. I've definitely listened to podcasts about stuff that I haven't seen yet, and then when I go back to watch it, like, I don't feel ruined by just because, like, listening to it and not having context for what it actually is, a lot of it, like, goes over your head. So I would say, if you did listen to this and haven't seen Fleabag, first of all, thank you, because why are you listening to this? But second of all, definitely go watch Fleabag. It's great. I think my final parting thought on Fleabag would just be that it's great, and she's awesome, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and hopefully she gets to keep doing more stuff. I know she was in Solo, a Star Wars story,
Yeah.
which
I saw
really
that.
depresses me. What a waste. God, that droid is such a...
Hopefully there's better things in her
Have
career
you guys
future.
seen Killing Eve?
No.
She writes that show. Season 3 just came out. She's already been, like, covered in Emmys for it. Very good. Highly
It's on
recommend.
Netflix, right?
It's not on Netflix. It's on Crave.
Oh.
But yeah, if you need, I can hook you up with the login for that. But also highly recommend. It's also hilarious and, like, multifaceted. You feel all the emotions, and also, yeah, just get to see a really hot girl killing people. It's a good time.
Oh.
Yeah, so we
That's
should
cool.
maybe eventually talk about that too. But that's what she's working on now, and it's fantastic. And apparently, she also did an edit on the newest James Bond.
She did.
Yeah.
She was a script doctor. They brought her in at some point during the writing process to do some rewrites.
Oh,
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if
I'm
that
pretty-
ever comes out in theaters, I don't know when it was supposed to or if it has, but That's
That
something
movie
we
looked-
can talk about.
It was already supposed to, but
That movie looked so good. It looked like Casino Royale, like Skyfall level James Bond good. You know what I mean? So good. The cast, dope. Oh my god. And then COVID. What are you gonna do? Okay, Carol, you want to summarize anything about Fleabag? You want to say anything
I
else?
mean, I'm obviously also going to tell everyone to watch it because, as I said at the beginning, it's my life's mission. I think the world would be a better place if everyone watched Fleabag. I have nothing to back that up, but I truly believe it. But yeah, I think that's it. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I would die if I ever met her. Thank God she exists. Yeah, I don't have
she
anything else
is.
to say.
She's an exciting one to. We're gonna have to watch her career because I have a feeling she is gonna probably end up like winning Oscars and stuff. Like if she wants to transition to film or whatever, or obviously she's gonna end up like just still winning like Emmys if she sticks to TV. But she is.
yeah, and this show, what did it win? Like 6 Emmys itself, I think.
Yeah, it won a
Fleabag?
bunch. I don't know the exact number, but it was
Yeah.
pretty successful on that front as well. Not just like fan, but also critically acclaimed, which doesn't happen all the time.
Excellent
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, it's great. Okay,
So what
Thanks,
are we
guys.
talking about next time? Should we give people
Well,
a heads up?
we can.
Do we
Have
wanna
we
say yet?
decided? Are you guys both on board with what you're making?
Oh,
me
we've
watch?
decided. Yes.
Okay.
So
So,
take it away.
I guess we might as well give them a little
all
hint
right,
right
stick
now.
with me here, folks. Okay.
Oh no.
Sticking with this theme of two people having not seen something, one person having to watch something for the first time.
Two people having seen
means-
something.
Yeah.
You said it the wrong way, but it's fine.
Oh, I did. Okay. Other way around. Flip that, reverse it. I don't know. Whatever. You know what Willy Wonka says, you know? Okay, so
Strike that, reverse it.
Remember we had, like, in grade 9, like, a religion teacher who's... Oh, you guys probably weren't in my class, but, like... I definitely had a...
No, I remember
Were
that.
you in my class? You know who I'm talking about?
I think.
And he always used to make that joke, and I was like, shut up. Like, just don't talk. Anyway. We'll talk off air about it, but, long
Off
story
air.
short, boys and girls, is that Dan and Carol are making me watch a quote-unquote horror movie by the one and only king of pretentious filmmaking, Mr. Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah.
Yep.
From such films as Requiem for a Dream, and also a Batman adaptation that never came out because it was so bad. Anyway, so we're going to be watching Mother.
Exclamation
Exclamation
point.
Very
point.
important.
And
Lowercase m.
I'm curious, guys. I'm just going to put this out there right now. Because I know what the movie's about,
Yes.
but when people say they don't like it, the comeback to that is always, well, you didn't understand it. And I know what this movie's about, and I'm kind of like, I don't know how I could not understand it, because it seems fairly obvious. So, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens next episode. It may or may not be me yelling into the mic for an hour and a half straight. I'm curious. You guys have both seen it? Just
Yep.
once, I think, for both of you, right?
Yeah, I'll give it another.
Just
another
once.
pass.
I saw it in theaters.
Ooh, that's
Oh, damn.
interesting.
Oh, damn. I feel so bad for you.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
talk
so-
about that next week, but just
We will.
Yeah.
tease.
We'll talk about it all next week. If you guys want to watch it, it is not on streaming anywhere. So you will have to rent it on YouTube or pirate it because
Yeah.
that's the kind of movie.
I'm gonna
Unless
be
you already
pirating
own
it
it.
when I
Yeah.
rewatch.
Unless you already own it on Blu-ray because it's your favorite movie, in which case you probably won't want to listen to me talk about it.
But okay, let's just do some quick math here. Take the amount of people that are listening to us, which is already very
Yeah.
slim, and then factor out the amount of people that possibly own this
Yeah.
movie. It's gonna be like maybe a couple people. at
Maybe.
most.
Whatever. We could lose those 2 listeners. Who cares, right?
Yeah, fuck them. You know what I mean? If Mother's your favorite movie,
Get outta
stop
here.
listening. We don't need you here. You know what I mean? You know when people like they get really political?
You know, it would be hilarious if all of our audience disappeared.
That's my
Imply-
favorite thing though. It's like when people are like, "Hey, if you support this person, like don't listen." If you support Mother, I don't want you.
But what if we just happen to have a steep drop in listeners for the next episode and it's totally unrelated, and now we live in a world where we believe that like 100 people just love Mother so
Well,
much.
again, just you know what I mean? Just get rid of them. Who cares? Okay.
We'll start fresh. We'll get a completely new audience.
Sometimes to build a better world,
From the ground
you have
up.
to burn down the one that you're living
Okay,
in.
Thanos.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that'll be next week. Hopefully everyone is prepped for that. Guys, if you know us...
Well, let's clarify.
Oh,
it'll
not
be
next
Yeah. Yeah.
next episode. I should say next
but-
episode. So, like, from whenever you're listening to this, assuming you're listening to it on the day it came out because you were really excited, just 2 weeks from there.
A lot of assumptions
Okay.
out here.
Around 2
Yeah.
weeks.
Also, if you know us and you have suggestions for what you'd like us to talk about, please let us know. If you don't know us, just leave us a comment and let us know what you'd like us to talk about. We do have a list. We have a little list of things that we keep adding stuff to, but if there seems to be like legitimate demand for something that people want to hear us talk about, we will be happy to talk about it. If not,
Yeah,
then
for sure.
we'll just go to the trusty old list and come up with something.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
All right.
Carol, Dan, thanks for being here again.
Yeah, good to talk to you guys.
In my own
Good to
home.
talk to all you guys, to all the listeners. We love you, except the ones who like Mother.